So I don't know if you've been paying attention or not, but Aaron Gordon I think recently went down with the injury, so Michael Malone decided to put Russell Westbrook in the starting lineup. And the Nuggets, they've been 8-2 since he's been inserted to the starting lineup. So currently on the season, he's averaging 12, 5, and 7 on 45, 32 splits. He was shooting 38% from three to start the season, but obviously it's Russell Westbrook, so obviously it's gonna cool down. He's not really that great of a shooter, but he is. I'd say he's a decent corner shooter because I think for his career he shot around like 36, 37%. And then on wide open threes, he's actually like converting a pretty decent amount of them. And that's all you can ask from Russ as a shooter. But basically, the Nuggets, their offense just looks like very polished right now. Like last game, I think against the Jazz, Russ and Jokic both finished with triple doubles. And the offense it just has like a new like energy to it with Russ on the court. And I'm making this video because I feel like Russ doesn't necessarily get the credit he deserves for becoming this bench spark plug role player hybrid type of dude. Because Russ, if you put Russ on like a loser, like if you put Russ on the Wizards right now, I'm pretty sure he could still average you like 18, 10, and 10, like an 18-point triple double. I'm pretty confident in that. But I feel like Russ doesn't get the credit he deserves for kind of just accepting this new role and just flourishing in it, because he was kind of forced into it after the LA situation, and it wasn't even necessarily his fault. It's just the fit wasn't there, and he kind of just had to make it work. Because if you look at his Lakers tenure, I mean, yes, it was bad, but if you look at the counting stats, it wasn't really that bad necessarily. I think he averaged like 18, 7 and 7 or 18, 7 and 8, something like that, on like 44% shooting. And then obviously, the three ball wasn't there. That's like for a third option, that's pretty all right coming from Russell Westbrook. The problem was the Lakers at that time just didn't have hardly any. Well, they didn't have any depth at all because they traded it all for Russ, and then they didn't have any shooting. So when you mix all that together, the team's not going to perform because you have two primary ball handlers in LeBron James and Russell Westbrook, and Russ needs the ball, LeBron needs the ball. Who do you want with the ball more? Obviously LeBron, so Russ, he has to kind of work around that. So his Lakers tenure wasn't really good, and the media, they kind of just like shat on him, like, oh, like that's the player he's been for years and blah blah blah. And once he finally went to the Clippers, you kind of just seen like he is able to accept a lesser role. He is able to flourish being like this role player. And every now and then he'll still have his games because Russell Westbrook's still an impactful player. Like, he's shown the ability, just because you can't shoot as a guard, you can still find a way to dominate in the NBA. Now, I will say, yes, he's a turnover machine. Yes, he has his flaws. Yes, he sometimes gets shot hungry and takes ill-advised shots. But I'd say over the years, the positive impacts of Russell Westbrook outshine the negativity. And Denver has a really good chance to win the ring this year from what I'm seeing so far. I just hope they could keep this level of play. And probably when Aaron Gordon returns, he probably goes back to the bench. But it's good getting reps, like being a starter, because you could translate that into bench production. And maybe if they did start him for the rest of the season, I'm pretty sure the counting stats would go up definitely with the points. He'd probably average, I'd say he gets around like 14 points per game if they kept him as a starter. But I just feel like Russ doesn't get the credit he deserves, just transitioning into this role of being a role player. Because guys like Carmelo Anthony, it was hard for them to accept that role. It took him a couple years and getting blackballed from the league, and he was finally able to transition into that role, and he actually flourished in it. Like, he actually did a pretty solid job. And it's hard for a lot of guys. You come from being an MVP and being this historical player revolutionizing the triple double that you gotta resort to just being a lesser player, a lesser version of yourself. And it sucks, but some people aren't able to do it, and some people are. And Russell Westbrook's just one of those people that were able to do it and still be productive to this day, being 36 years old, which is the crazy part. But yeah, that's just my spiel on Russell Westbrook. And, you know, I just honestly feel like he just needs more credit for just being an impactful player he is.